Broadcast for the 2024 RAVENOL ADAC, the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. And we have a break in the weather. It's good to have your company, everybody. John Hindorf, Peter Mackay and Joe Bradley in the Global Broadcast Centre for this first qualifying session, qualifying practice session, call it what you will. Here, no time is wasted. Every bit of track time that we will bring you today will have an effect on the qualification, particularly for those outside of the top classes. I mentioned a break in the weather. It has been torrential rain here in the Eifel region over the last few weeks, and it's meant the water table is very, very high indeed. The local rivers running perhaps 2.5, 3 feet or a metre or so higher than they would normally be at this time of the year. Last night woke us up, actually. It was raining so heavily, around about half an hour away from the Nürburgring. But we have, as I said, a break in the weather. And that means I think we're going to see a flurry of activity in this 1 hour, 45-minute session that gets underway in 2 minutes exactly from now. It's a relatively straightforward qualifying procedure for everyone outside the top two classes, SP9 and SPX. SP9 is effectively GT3. SPX is that catch-all class for cars of and around a GT3 performance level, but don't easily fit in to an homologation of that type of car. So everybody outside of those two classes, this afternoon's session and this evening's session effectively will set the grid. And with the weather as it is now and the weather forecast looking pretty poor as we move further forward in terms of it not being dry, I suspect that all of the minor classes will be out and will be out very early. Peter Mackay is directly to my right, geographically, not necessarily politically. Joe Bradley is to my far right, as an ex-policeman. That could well be either. Peter, the easy bit is everybody else other than SPX and SP9. In terms of the rest of it, we have got this very popular top qualifying to come tomorrow, which will set the front rows of the grid. Effectively, everybody in SPX and SP9 will get a go at some form of top qualifying. There's two versions of it, TQ1 and TQ2. The second part of it will set pole position.
Correct.
And there are a dozen cars already qualified for that.
That's right. So here at the Nürburgring, Nordschleife, things are done a little bit differently, to say the least, for lots of reasons. The first two rounds of the Nürburgring Langstrecken series, the kind of championship that runs here at the Nürburgring, and the two qualifying races a few weeks ago, the data from that is all collected, and 12 cars have been given a guaranteed place in top qualifying 2, which is that pole position shootout. They are the 33 Falcon Porsche, the 911 Manti Porsche, both Scherer Audis, in fact both Falcon Porsches as well, the Herberth Porsche, the number 4 Mercedes Team HRT car, the Red Bull Lamborghini, the 35 Vulcan Horst Aston Martin, the Team Advan AMG, the Pro Sport Aston Martin and the Lion Speed Porsche. There are 5 places left up for grabs in that top qualifying 2.
Let's call that the pole shootout.
That's the pole shootout. That's the pole shootout,
Let's make that easier. It is top qualifying 2, but from our point of view, to make it easy for us and for the viewers and listeners,
pole shootout.
Pole shootout. If you're joining us on RS1 or on the video feed at radiolemans.com or any of the other outlets, good to have your company. And we are global for our video right through till the start of the race. There's one or two local exceptions to that when we get to the race, because there is other coverage for you. Green flag is out, so we're not going to get anything for a wee while. It's the usual, by the way. We've got the cones out on the start-finish line, which is right in front of us here in our global broadcast. We could not be... My left shoulder is pretty much on the straight. right there. So that's good. So you can come around the Grand Prix circuit and rejoin and carry back on around again. So the cones are out at the moment. You don't have to go out onto the Hats and back and start the North Loop. All right. So there's a dozen in there.
Yep.
They'll be joined by 5 more. We will have 17 cars in the Pole Shootout
Correct.
tomorrow. Everybody else who is SP9 or SPX will have a go for those 5 places.
Correct. And there are some big names. I'll summarise the highlights of who needs to fight for those top 5. All 3 BMWs, the Team M RMG car and both Rover racing cars, they all need to try and get in. The last year's winner, the Fricadelli Ferrari, the Bilstein number 3 Mercedes, the Get Speed number 8, both Get Speed Mercedes AMGs. So there is a lot to be fought over. There's going to be a few cars that are left disappointed. We saw that last year, didn't we, with Manti Racing, with one of the Rover cars, which ended up coming second. So it is possible. But you wonder, the Rover car that came second last year from 31st on the grid, you do wonder if it had a good grid position, might have challenged the Fricadelli car a bit more. We say 24-hour race qualifying, who cares? Well, if you're at the wrong end of the top 30, you've missed the bus here. It's that competitive.
Yeah.
You've missed the bus.
What is it? Competitive.
First one of the weekend.
Yeah, first one of the weekend. Let's mark that one off.
Yeah.
Joe Bradley is the third voice in this 1 hour 45-minute session, which has just got underway. Welcome back, Joseph. You missed history last year with the
Stop reminding me.
Ferrari winning.
Reminding me. I'm very sad still. A year later, still sad of missing that one.
Really?
Yeah, very much.
Has it? It's left a mark on you, that, hasn't
It absolutely has. I mean, I'm a massive Ferrari fan. Goes back to my childhood. Massive Ferrari fan, and to have missed that Ferrari win and not just a Ferrari win, but the Fricadelli win.
Yeah.
You know,
Claire Sutherland. Yeah.
You know, all of that emotion that we saw. Then I wasn't here. All right, now we're in 45 minutes.
There were tears in the box.
There was in this box.
Yes, there were tears.
Not the mid box.
In the box.
Yeah.
There was a lot of emotion in this box because we were all thinking of Klaus and Sabina and the link, because that is one of the local teams.
Yeah, this isn't it. It's one of those races that we visit. We visit some pretty special places. I mean, you know, we're not that far away from the Le Mans 24 Hours, which again has its own unique ambience. But there's nothing like the Nürburgring. There's nothing like the German race fans. The culture around this area of Germany is you can smell it, you can taste it. It's incredible. Everyone's a speed freak. Everyone's a petrol head. You drive through the villages here, and there's clearly their ring car that they take out on track days, because, you know, I've never seen so many of those Megane Sports.
RSs.
People's drives, those Megane RSs.
The gold-yellow coloured Megane RSs are I think we've got 92% of every one that was built here.
The sad thing is, I always find coming here, the sad thing is that, you know, deep down, I'm a race fan. And deep down, I want to be out there with those other race fans. It's got nothing to do with the drinking of beer, because there's a lot of beer being drank out there.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the atmosphere is completely Germanic. The fans are, you walk through those fan areas that pretty much line the whole of this track, which is an incredible feat. You know, we go to places like Sebring, where you see people erect these huge structures and self-made grandstands. They bring them out into the forest here. A fabulous atmosphere. And yes, I agree, we are back to those halcyon days before BC.
Yes, BC. Before COVID. Very good. I'm stealing that. 235,000 fans here last year, despite the weather. And it is Corpus Christi today, so it is a bank holiday here in Germany. All the shops are closed. They do bank holidays properly here when it is a feast day.
Midweek bank holiday.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Well,
Mind you, do they have to go back to work tomorrow?
Most people won't. So it is bad luck to go to work after a day off.
After you've been off.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to work in local government, so I know that to be true. So I expect that we will be somewhere up around that figure of 235,000. It is... now, is it already starting to spit on with rain? Yes, it is, on the start-finish line, just outside of the Global Broadcast Centre. Back for 2024, an all-new Dacia Logan, Peter. Fan favourite. Controversial in some respects, but in others, the absolute essence of the variety of this race out on the Grand Prix circuits at the moment. A similar colour scheme, but a completely different car, brand new shell, and a different class for it for this year as well.
That's right. It's got a different engine than what it had previously. It used to run in the SP3 class, which was for non-turbocharged cars. It now runs in SP3T, the T standing for turbocharged. So Oliver Kreise, Michael Lachmeyer, Yannick Lachmeyer and Maximilian Weissermel will drive that legendary car. A lot of them have driven the Dacia before. Oliver Kreise has had, this is his 6th season in a Dacia. And both Yannick and Maximilian, they've driven once before in the Dacia at this race. So they've all got experience of the machine, but with that new turbocharged motor, it'd be interesting to actually compare its lap times compared to last year. And this session here might well be the only direct comparison we get, because this may well be the driest that it is all weekend long, Joe.
I mean, the controversy that John mentioned there was obviously the difference in speed in the car. But don't you think that having that car entered is still capturing the very essence of this event? This event was always about that eclectic range of cars that we're seeing here. I mean, I think this was a little bit before my time, and I've been coming here since 2014. But at the Berlin Taxi, that someone entered for year after year, it had like 500,000 miles on it, and they would bring it out here and compete in the 24-hour race.
Yeah.
I mean, all right, we haven't quite got that, but that car there, the Dacia, is the car that's capturing that kind of spirit and that kind of uniqueness about this place.
It is, and it's great to see it back after a pretty scary accident last year. It must be said. So good they're out there, and huge number of fans already out around the circuit. I think this session is going to be really, really critical for everyone outside of the top class to get their grid position, because this may well be the driest we see the circuit all weekend. So you've got to get out there and push early on and try and find out. And you reckon slicks is the order of the day?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you guys think that? Yeah.
And you need to be out there straight away
now.
Because, all right, it's an hour and 45 session. It's an hour and 45. Got plenty of time. However, remind yourself, you're at the Nürburgring. Yeah. And that 1 hour 45 with over, if the fastest cars are lapping just over 8 minutes, that 1 hour 45 is just going to ebb away.
The meaningful times have not yet come in, as you might imagine, because of the length of the lap. We'll say this a few times, I think, in today's and probably tomorrow's sessions. This event requires a complete reset of your mind, because, as Brad has rightly said, it is like nothing else. It is like no other racetrack, it is like no other race, it's like no other pit lane, and therefore the times are like nothing else because of the lengths.
We have to recalibrate.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Because cleanse your mind of everything else motor racing.
Because and when we get into the race the weekend, you may have a lap lead, but a lap lead's worth 10 laps somewhere else. There's like 3 or 4 conventional tracks, 3-mile tracks. There's about 3 or 4 of them. I can't quickly do the maths on how many miles and how many kilometres there are in comparison to a conventional racetrack. But you know what I mean by conventional racetrack. This isn't a conventional racetrack.
Sector 7, which goes from just near on the way up to Mootcurve all the way to Galgenkopf.
About halfway around the track.
Near enough, yeah. 2 minutes 25 seconds was the fastest time through there in the qualifying races.
That's a lot longer than some conventional races.
That's longer than a GT3 car takes to go around Spa.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's
it gives a bit of context.
Right there. So they're basically lapping Spa just in Sector 7, time-wise.
Near enough.
And that's what we mean by recalibration. That's why we won't necessarily get too excited. In the same token, though, if a lead can completely disappear, if you have a problem out on the track and the early part of the Nordschleife, and you have to get all the way back round, that it's probably as quick
over,
to just
really.
pull over and get a recovery truck back.
Near enough. I mean, we saw that decide the outcome and the fate of several teams in SP9 in the overall fight last year, because the eventual winner, Fricadelli Ferrari, they did have a rear left puncture during the race, but it surfaced itself just coming out of Galgenkopf onto the Dottingerhose, so they lost around a minute. But if you looked at, say, the App Lamborghini, which got a puncture around S-Back, which is still in Sector 7, it's still well 3/4 of the way around the lap, that completely destroyed the race.
Hello to Ben Stevenson, who caught up on Midweek Motorsport early this morning and is now tuned in while catching up on some editing. Looking forward to a great weekend of racing. Editing photographs, it looks like there, Ben. After that, yeah, that's how you Pete, isn't it? Is that it? No, red and white curves. No, it's not.
No.
Where was that at the weekend then? Ben, you'll have to let us know. Ben has done exactly the right thing at RSL_studio, but crucially, hashtag RSL_N24. Hashtag RSLN24. That's what we're looking at. And that comes straight through to us here in the studio. I'm just seeing that. There we are. Hashtag RSLN24. Blur Fiend. Now that chores are sorted, I'm focusing my full attention on the N24, tuned in from the pool in Florida. Oh, no, that was last year. Phew. RSL N24 is where you need to be. That's the hashtag. And we have a number of different ways that you can watch, but if you go to radiolemans.com, you'll see it all on the front page.
First lap times coming in, they're not indicative yet. It seems that the teams and drivers just looking to get a little bit of a sighting and a look at the Nordschleife before they go full push. I think that's very wise. The fastest time, Raffaele Marciello in the BMW. Yes, the BMW, a switch for this year, of course, put the Mercedes AMG on pole last year with an 8:09. Was a new record, 8:09.058, defeating a record that had stood for 5 years in the hands of Lawrence Vantor. So the fastest lap so far is in 8:56, so we're 48 seconds off the ultimate dry weather pace. But I think that's just purely because the drivers are going out and just having a sighting of what's what out there. As they've gone through the first sector on the Grand Prix circuit, they're now much closer to the optimum pace.
Should mention as well that the configuration of the track is unique to this event. This is not the same.
And the qualifying races.
Yes, good point. It's not the same as a standard.
As NLS, no.
A VLN
Slightly
race.
different.
Got a problem for one of the GT Tires cars. It's the number 502 that is off right at the first corner at the AMG, the Mercedes Arena. GT Tires, that is one of, I think, 5 cars that they've got. GT, one of, I think I count 8 tyre manufacturers, but I am prepared to be corrected on that. This is the Robert Heinzer, Bernd Kuiper, Maxi Iceberg, and Gregoire Boutonnier, a BMW 330i and VT12 rear drive. VT12 rear drive. That's heck if you are looking.
That's Maxi Iceberg, who's at the wheel right now, who had a podium in the second NLS race and 4th in class in the second qualifying race. If you're going to have a spill off, that's probably the best corner to do it, because it's got the biggest gravel trap on the entire complex here. There aren't really many gravel traps at all on the Nordschleife, 1 or 2, but very, very few. If you go off there, usually you're coming back with a very damaged car. But if you're going to go off at the first corner.
Looks like he missed his braking point or something, because he's literally driven straight off. He doesn't contact the barriers or anything.
So but plenty of time on this session to get in there and get up to speed, get the driver up to speed as well as the car, and get a feel for the conditions. We've had over the last couple of days some pretty rotten weather. This morning when we arrived, it was really nasty, and we thought this is going to be a really tricky qualifying session, but it's dried up very, very quickly. In fact, it surprised me, John, how fast the circuit has dried considering the conditions we had this morning.
It's windy.
That helps.
And,
yeah,
and,
true.
And it's relatively warm. It was into the early teens early this morning when we came in for breakfast and to do all of our sound checks and things like that. By the way, thank you very much to our team on site here, Nürburgring TV, as ever, David and the crew, making us feel very welcome, and the Sport Total team in the TV compound just behind us to right, and in particular our two engineers who are two booths further down. Jakob's been very busy this morning. They'll be working shifts over the weekend, so thank you to them. And the unsung heroes, of course, is all the riggers who've already done all the hard work. We have 14 onboard cameras for you this weekend, for those of you with access to the worldwide TV stream. Up in London, Tim Gray, it's Rob with us today as well, and we'll be joined, in fact, our second group, the reinforcements are on their way. We were the advance party, if you will. The expeditionary force came in on Tuesday night, and our Mazda powered crew coming in a CX-60 3.3 straight 6 diesel, due to pick their creds up in about an hour, actually, as we've been tracking them down on the radar. Not exactly, but you know what we mean. Early start for us all coming over here, driving down, but a beautiful drive down on Tuesday. A little bit of rain, but great part of the world, and no wonder, Peter, this part of the world turns out some good drivers, because never mind the Nordschleife, the actual surface roads round here are like tarmac rally stages and billiard table smooth.
We're quite jealous everywhere we come in the United Kingdom, where the road surfaces are quite rough and covered in potholes, etc. Not so around here in the Eifel region. So yeah, big props to the local community and local authority for keeping the roads in such good order, as well as the Nordschleife itself, as far as we can see. And
it should be said, the Nordschleife obviously been here since the 1920s, the 1920s. It should be said, the Nordschleife itself, built here as in some ways, a job creation scheme, an economic creation scheme for this area as a racetrack and a test facility. But the Nordschleife mirrors the character of the local roads.
It very much, doesn't it?
Yeah. When you see the roads, right, because you look at the Nordschleife, people would look at the Nordschleife. I remember in the early days of being in the States, and people on the PlayStation on Gran Turismo saying, this Nordschleife, whose twisted mind did that come out of? Who decided? No, it's a real track. No, it's not a real track. It's a made-up track. No, it's a real track. But it absolutely follows the form of the local roads around it. In fact, in some ways, it's toned down because it's actually probably a bit wider.
There's a lot of sections where you flat out, and then you kind of, there's a slight curve followed by a less slight curve, followed by a tight curve. Yeah. And so you're slowing down gradually. It's not a hard stop pretty much anywhere. I can't think of a really hard stop on this track, apart from turn 1.
On the Grand Prix. Yeah, on the Grand Prix.
Arenberg.
It's still not massively stopping.
Yeah, well, Peter did all the work talking to drivers and looking at the onboard, and the minimum speeds here are extraordinary. So Versailles for me would probably be coming down the hill to the left hand hairpin at Versailles, but in the GT3 cars,
52 miles an hour. Yeah. That's the slowest point on the circuit. Yeah, that's the slowest the car will go. Yeah.
And that's
on the Nordschleife.
That is quite a big stop, because you've come down the hill picking up speed all the way down. So you're up to what, 140?
130 round the three right-handers. Yeah. When you think about coming around when you come around the Schwedenkreuz, which is the absolutely flat 167 miles an hour or 270 kilometers an hour corner, you're braking from 167 miles an hour to 68 miles an hour in a very short space of time.
At the top of Arenberg.
Coming into Arenberg, yeah. So it's there are so many places like that around the circuit.
Now the Vauxhall is even quicker than it used to be. Since it's been
it's
been resurfaced. There's a number of that. So some of these drivers who didn't need to do qualifying have done because of the well publicised, and we're not going to go into this, but because the well publicised difficulties in getting dates early in the year before this race this year, there's a lot of drivers coming into this with probably as little preparation and track time as ever before. There's been a couple of test days and people have taken advantage of that, but even so, not everybody was at the VLNs or the qualifying weekend. So there will be some people here who are experiencing this new surface, and there was a considerable amount of work done over the winter. Again, that's happened in the last 2 winters. So over the last probably 2 winters, maybe 3 winters, I would say probably the whole circuit has been resurfaced. And the difference in the Vauxhall when we were covering the race and the early races in VLN, Nürburgring Langstrecke Series, and the qualifying weekend, it's visible. You can see the cars are quicker because it's smoother. Drivers saying that they are keeping their footing much longer up the hill on the other side. That was never a place for faint-hearted drivers anyway, but now it really is keep your foot down and hang on. It's incredible.
Resurfacing also takes away those nuances of bumps.
Yeah.
That become, when we talk about local knowledge, we don't mean whether the track turns left or right. We mean where you position the car to avoid a bump in the tarmac that might upset the car under braking or acceleration.
Which sometimes means you can't take what you would think is the exact line.
Exactly.
Add to that here, you have a camber in the middle of the road.
Yes.
So there are places where you're going backwards and forwards over the top of the crown of the road, and that affects the line that you take.
Yeah, like a street course.
Yeah. Because the water has to run. There's water here. Look how green it is. There's water here. So you have to be able to do that. Hashtag RSL_N24 at RSL Studio. Hello. If you are just joining us, this is a 1 hour 45-minute session, or at least it was. We have already done 15 minutes, and at the top of the times, Raffaele Marcello has put in an 8:33.7 in the number 98 Rover Racing BMW. His teammate, the number 99 car. Now, which of the Van der Lindes is that, Peter?
In the number 99, Sheldon Van der Linde.
Sheldon, that's right.
Yeah. His brother Kelvin is in the number 27 Abt Sport Lamborghini.
Yeah.
So Sheldon previously...
Sheldon in BMW.
And he's just had a big slide there coming through Brunchen up towards Ice Curve. The circuit is definitely nowhere near its optimum at this stage. I wonder if it's quite green after all the rain that we've had. Because we are 20 seconds off the dry pace.
Yeah.
At this stage. Now, that might keep coming down, and the timing screen is lighting up with purple and green sectors, of course. But, and Sheldon Van der Linde at the moment looks like he's about to bring that down. But it's going to be really interesting to see how close we get to the optimum dry pace. Yes, the circuit is mostly dry, but the amount of rain that we've had throughout the last couple of days, and even this morning, the track's going to be green. There's going to be no rubber laid down, and it's going to be greasy. There's damp patches there as well. Of course, here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife in this race, in the ADAC RAVENOL 24 Hours in the Nürburgring, you can use a dry tyre, you can use a fully wet tyre with big grooves in it, and you can actually use a cut slick. It's one of the few places where you can do that. So some drivers and teams like to use a cut slick on when it's kind of half wet, half dry, because it just, if you go over a damp patch, it just keeps that tiny bit of more temperature in the tyre. We spoke to Maro Engel, than his teammates last year about it, and he gave us some great insight into what it can do. So wonder what we'll get a chat with the drivers in between sessions if we can about what tyres they put on during this session. But this is really important exploratory work for what is going to be a really unpredictable weekend of weather.
It's Peter Mackay, Joe Bradley and me, John Hindhaugh, in the Global Broadcast Centre. If you're joining us for this first of our qualifying sessions this afternoon. So what we've got to be looking at here, that means I need to bring up another screen. I rapidly run out of screens.
That's a bit more like it from Van der Linde, 8:25. So we're now about maybe 10 to 12 seconds off the optimum pace, and not in a perfect lap either. Quite a lot of traffic out there, and Van der Linde with that big slide coming through Brunchen.
So let's have a look at some of the provisional pole sitters in the classes that won't be heading into the pole shootout. In Cup 2, Share a Sport, PHX in the number 116. Hoffa Racing by Bonk in the 888 is leading AT3. Hyundai with the Elantra number 830 leads TCR. Mark Bessing was put out earlier on. I think that's a very smart move. WNS Motorsport in SP10 with the 164. Czerny Motorsport, Jadon Blakemolen leading SP8T. That's the GT4 turbocharged class, and that's Peter Cate's car. Jimmy Broadbent and his teammates in that category as well. Czerny in 20th position at the moment. WNS Motorsport leads Cup 3 with their number 962 car. MSC Zinzig ADAC is leading in SP3T with a 776. V2 rear drive is the number 510. Plus Lime Racing lead SP7 with their number 80. BMW 240i class is Adrenaline Motorsport, Team Manhattan Wheels. They've got the final 2 garages, 10 cars at the end of pit lane. That's the 650 car. VT2 front is the 482 car. I'll look some of these up later on when we get into the meat of these sessions, because they don't always have a team name on these cars. And V4, why can't I scroll down on that? It's rather annoying me. V4 is Adrenaline Motorsport, the number 711. The 396 in 59th is a class leader. Let me go back to another screen. 59th, that is the BMW 325i. Adrenaline Motorsports 396. Porsche Cayman S in V6 is the class leader. And 275 BMW is leading SP3. You see how many classes they are now. They're in 74th. In 75th, the 446 V5 Porsche Cayman CM12 is leading their class. VT3 Kievan with 3A Sports. We've got a number of BMWs, a couple of BMW 335i's actually. They're second with the 750. They're leading with the 599, but they're in 2 different classes, V4 and VT3. And that, I reckon, is all of our leaders. We have had 87 cars turning laps out of 124 cars that we have on the timing screen. I wonder if some of the cars that are pre-qualified through to the pole shootout later this week may be saving themselves at the moment for this, Peter, and just working out when and where they need to be out. Because if the forecast is for wet weather this weekend, then bizarrely, actually driving around in the dry isn't going to teach you anything.
Not really important, and all you do is risk the car, which you don't want to do. So looking at the cars that haven't gone out, nearly all of them are the cars from top qualifying 2 who are already in that pole position shootout. So you're absolutely right, John. Unless we go into a wet session and they want to go out and get some wet setup, then that's obviously much more, that's worthwhile. But right now, to practice on a dry track for what is very likely to be a wet qualifying, not really important, because all of the running, the competitive running, NLS 1 and 2 and the qualifying race 1 and 2, all dry.
Yeah.
So we really are going into the unknown a bit.
There's not very many inexperienced teams here, though, and they'll have a lot of data knowledge for wet weather running here. However, as John mentioned earlier, it's had a resurface.
That's had a resurface, yeah.
Completely different in the wet if they've had no much.
And also when we had Julian Andlauer, and he very kindly came to join us in the commentary box last year, and we're talking about the Porsche, and we're talking about how it handles the weight that's either added or taken away when there's a balance of performance adjustment, and they'd had quite a big weight added in it, and it really blunted their pace. And he said the car is, at that point, it could be different now, but at that point the Porsche was very sensitive to weight. Now the Porsche has had the best results, won all 4 races so far on the Nürburgring this year, and on overall pace looks very, very strong, but has been hit with 15 kilos extra weight in the balance of performance and had more wing angle added. So they might want to have a look at how that's going to affect it. But if we're not going to have dry weather, then I guess it's not so important.
The weather forecast is that it's going to be off and on rain. Now, whether we have whether we get a period like we have now, for instance, where it's going to dry completely.
So
it's hard to judge at this point.
Hashtag blame Bradley on this, by the way, because Bradley yesterday said, I think we could be looking at a race where you never use slick tyres.
You are going to use a cut slick, though.
Intermediates.
Yeah.
And that's a fair point. At RSL_studio, use the hashtag RSL_N24. Joe said yesterday that you may not ever get a full slick on, but you are allowed intermediates, cut slicks, as they are often called. However, they can only be cut by the tyre manufacturer. We have, I think we've got 8 tyre manufacturers here, but again, that's some homework. Bruce Jones will have done that. You know he will have. So he'll be listening now in the Mazda on his way here. So send us a note, Bruce, because I know you've done that. Peter is now.
Isn't it great to have a tyre manufacturer war race?
Yeah. So only the tyre manufacturers can cut the slicks, and they have to be done to a specific pattern that has to be approved by the. Oh, you're only up to you're up to 7 already. 8, 9.
At least 9.
Yeah. I got to 8. Okay, so we've got 9. We think we've got at least 9. We've had double figures here before in terms of different manufacturers.
10. At least 10.
Right. Okay, we're in double figures.
We're in the double figures.
Right, excellent. Double figures of tyre manufacturers. Okay. One thing this year that is different, although it isn't in some respects, the difference is that this is a round of the SRO the SRO International GT Championship. However, that makes no difference at all to the event. They're not in their own class, they're in the general classification, and they have been relieved of the requirement to run Pirelli tyres in this race. The whole championship is normally run with Pirellis, although not sponsored by Pirellis, I noticed this year, not one of the title sponsors, possibly due to this being a bit of an outlier. I'm indebted to Michael Z. Hello, Mickey Z. The TQ2 runners can't join the quali session till 20 minutes into the session.
That's a great point. Yes, that's a really good point.
I had seen that, but I've read so much in the last few days. I feel like I'm cross-eyed in some places, and B, I can't remember what I've read and what I haven't. So thank you, Mickey Z, for that. Having said that, we have had at least 20 minutes now, and still some of those cars haven't come out. I said, what did we say before? I think we said we'd had 80 odd. We've now had 110 of the 127. So it has brought a few more cars out to play, as it were.
Optimised laps, by the way, guys, have been stifled somewhat by a number of slow zones that are going out. We've got a slow zone, a new one at Schwalbenschwanz entry. We've got a slow zone at the Stefan Bellof and a new slow zone at Metzgerfeld. Totally unrelated incidents, I would think, considering the geography of that. But that is stifling what, we're not going to see an optimised run at this stage.
By the way, that BMW 502 was dragged out the gravel and has continued. That was very, very early on here.
So if for the qualifying for everyone but the top class, you had to get out there. You really had to get out there early before the slow zone started coming in. Now the car that's gone off is the Glickenhaus at Metzgesfeld. That's the Glickenhaus is off on the exit of Metzgesfeld on the left-hand side of the road. In fact, the second part of Metzgesfeld, the second left.
There was a little stream of
water
running across. It was very, very narrow. It wasn't huge.
Yep.
But that's clearly unbalanced that car, hasn't it? Maybe gone on the throttle through it and sort of put the car off. It looked like he was up against the barrier.
It's Thomas Much, by the way, who's driving it.
The car didn't look from the right-hand side. The right-hand side, the car looked fine. I don't know what the left-hand side of the car was nearest the barrier.
It's the light blue 706, the SPX entered Glickenhaus Racing LLC for Thomas Much, Frank Mir, Lance David Arnold and Colm Ledergar. I mean, that is a force to be reckoned with, that car. We've seen how quick it has been. It hasn't really been developed very much over the last few years, and GT3 cars are getting quicker. SP9 cars are getting quicker, but we know what that car can do, particularly over a single lap. That is absolutely not what they needed. They were working on that car quite late last night when we were in the pit lane for Midweek Motorsport. If you haven't heard that, go to radiolemans.com. Tim posted that, and the whole of the first hour last night was us down in the pit lane.
Thomas Much has won in class at this race 6 times. 45 years old, been racing here for so many years. As Joe rightly said, that stream of water is maybe a metre wide, but it's going across the entire circuit, just where you don't want it, coming through Metzgesfeld.
It's a corner, isn't it?
Yeah, you're coming through, entering at 142 miles an hour, coming out of it about 80 miles an hour, so it's fast. So if someone of Thomas Much's experience can get caught out there, really anybody could, and I think that's why we saw the cars and going out and taking it so gingerly in those opening laps to really just get a look at where everything is on the circuit.
It was exploratory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was seeing where those damp patches are. Because even though it's a slick tyre track at the moment with lots and lots of dry track, there are damp patches and there are those drainage runoffs that we're seeing being developed. If it doesn't rain anymore, whether those drainage runoffs, those little streams that streak across the track, they're going to take a while to disappear.
Yeah,
because
they will.
Like John mentioned earlier on, the water table is so high. We've had so much rain here. We always have so much rain here, don't we? So that it's going to be a while before they disappear, if at all. Yeah, it's very good.
Beautiful green around here. We're actually quite high up as well. That's the thing that people forget. That we are... it's the Eifel Mountains. Now, we're not talking snow-capped peaks here, but we're up a height, and that does have an effect on the weather systems around here. Let's have a look at the times as we've just gone through 40 minutes having been completed. It's Dan Harper now behind the wheel of the number 72 BMW team RMG car at 8:21, so time's coming down. 8:25 for Robert French in the 99 Rover Racing BMW. So BMWs to the fore at the moment. 8:31 last time around for the defending race winners from last year, Daniel Kylwitz for Frickadelli Racing in the Ferrari, the sole Ferrari this year in the race. They're back in the pits now. There were a couple of cars last year. I think rather unkindly, we've talked about this in Midweek Motorsport, people have looked at the driving talent in the Frickadelli Racing GmbH and had said, oh, that's not as good as last year. I think people that are saying that, I think A, it's unkind, and I think B, that is to underestimate the drivers in that Frickadelli Ferrari this year.
Well, what you've got there is two drivers that might not necessarily have the international profile like, say, an El Bamber does, or Nicky Katzberg or what have you. But Daniel Kylwitz is really strong at this circuit, and don't forget, he set the fastest lap in the race of the entire week, faster than Raffaele Marciello went in qualifying during the race. So in the Pro-Am Spec Falcon Spiegel Ferrari. So Kylwitz is impressive. Luca Ludwig, son of Klaus, former pole sitter, of course, in this event. So they do have some drivers. But Luca maybe doesn't have the international profile, but he's very well regarded here. So they definitely are going about it. I would say that the question mark is Nico Veroni. Now, Nico Veroni is a GT world champion in the World Endurance Championship. The only reason why I say it's a question mark is absolutely nothing to do with his ability. That already speaks for itself. He's won the Rolex 24 in class. It's the experience here at this circuit, and he knows that. We spoke to him yesterday on Midweek Motorsport, and he said, first time here, he says, but there's going to be chaos, and he's just got to keep himself out of that chaos, and I think that's just the right attitude.
What was it he said?
I guarantee there'll be chaos.
Chaos will break out or something. It's the Nürburgring thing.
Chaos will
ensue or something like that. It was a T-shirt. I tweeted it out at the time. And by the way, the other thing is the Croix Pointer sisters are the daughters.
Okay,
right.
Okay.
So, and thanks to Johannes for pointing that out. You guys had already made your way back to the digs as I was sitting here in the Global Broadcast Centre, finishing up the second hour with Tim and laughing my head off at Nick's Monaco. Team by team. It's worth listening to the second hour just for that.
While we're still on that Frickadelli Ferrari, it had both the Ferraris that competed or in fact all three Ferraris that competed in the race last year, they had fantastic top end speed. That appears to have carried over this year. Now, they have had a little bit of turbo boost taken away throughout the rev range since the qualifying races. It doesn't appear to have blunted the speed, so that Frickadelli Ferrari has got some real boogie down the straight, which is, it's a very high speed circuit here, so top end power is really, really important.
I don't know if I mentioned I was at Ferrari last week.
You maybe once or twice.
I heard the story.
Every time we've driven past the Cavallino restaurant, I was there last week.
The one in Ravenol.
He doesn't need any prompting. Well, anything beginning with an F. Well, Ferrari begins with F. Did I tell you I was a Ferrari?
Is that a red shirt? Oh, I'll tell you another thing that's red. It's Ferrari.
It's a Ferrari. Yes, absolutely. Was that Italian? Well, remarkably, of course, I've never been to Ferrari before. All the years working in automotive and motorsport, and went there. They were still, Peter, and rightly so, cock-a-hoop about this race last year. In a team that had no works support and no works drivers. Although they got the win, it could have been a different story because they had some damper problems in the second part of the race.
They had huge. The dampers were completely finished, and for the last 6 hours they really had to nurse it home. By that point, they put themselves in a position where they could afford a little bit of that, but they were still run hard by one of the Rover BMWs. But the thing where they really won themselves the race was when they got the puncture. A lot of teams are getting rear left punctures, and they got a puncture coming out of Galgenkopf onto the Dottinger Hole, where you're still 3 or 4 kilometres from home there. Nicky Katzberg limped the car back very carefully, and where that race was, well, where they didn't throw it away was in the serviceability of that Ferrari, where at the back of the car there's a modular piece which can clip off the car and clip back on again. So they clipped off this slightly damaged piece, put on the new piece, and they managed to do that within the minimum pit stop time and not lose any additional time. Now, walking through the garages, Johnny Palmer and I noticed last year that Fricadelli Ferrari were the only team that had built a kind of racking above the car where they've got a whole rear piece and a whole front piece waiting ready to go. Now, one or two teams this year, in fact, funnily enough, Valkenhorst have that this year. And who's driving for them? David Pittard, who drove for Fricadelli last year. He's going, guys, I've got this great idea. Let's try this.
Maybe the gantry comes with David. Maybe he has a gantry.
He's a fabricator in his spare time, maybe. But that,
it's like Tri-Light.
Thinking ahead.
It's like a Tri-Light. The triangular section,
kind of thing you see at concerts,
rock concerts.
Yeah, it's very like that. Yeah. Like you would see on a stage.
And it's built as a skeleton inside the Fricadelli garage again this time, and they're sharing actually with a world debut.
Yes, so another red and white car, the brand new John Cooper Works Mini road car. The only thing that is changed from the road car that will be sold to the public, I guess, at the end of the year, it has a racing safety seat, a roll cage, and a proper racing steering wheel. And as far as I can see, a fire system, and as far as I can see, that's about it.
Yes.
And it's run by the Bulldog Racing Team. They've got two cars, and they've got their little. When the cars are sitting in the pits, they've got two Bulldog stuffed toys that sit on the top of the cars. It's great.
I know, Joe, you are the king of the tracker. You might want to check the 706 because on the race control channel, that car has continued under its own steam.
That's good news.
I think that's what that means. My translate isn't working on the live ticker, so
your German's been so good this week, though, John.
It's got us through, hasn't it?
You were quite shocked, weren't you, yesterday when we
had a omelette in a baguette once, but that's only once.
No, that was share in Spanish, wasn't it? A necktie between two pieces of bread, which was lovely.
Pits, John, is the answer to your question.
Excellent. Well, it's got there under its own steam. So well done to Thomas Much for getting it back, and they'll be starting the process of assessing the damage at RSL_studio. The hashtag is RSL_N24 for the 2024 running of the ADAC RAVENOL 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. This is our first qualifying practice. The time's counting in this, so don't think we're just cruising around for a bit of fun and remind ourselves where we're going. And we have a new fastest time from BMW Team RMG, an 8:21.487. Max Hesser, formerly of the BMW Junior team, in that car. Change of personnel there. Neil Verhagen has been asked by the BMW management to concentrate, Peter, on what's going on in the States. So Charles Weerts has been drafted in to what was, in past times, a very successful BMW Junior team lineup.
And I think this is a great opportunity for them to do very, very well. And in fact, for Max Hess and for Dan Harper, they must be absolutely yearning to win this race. They've tried for several years now. They've been up there. They've been really hit with bad luck over the last couple of years, and they're just desperate to get that win. It would mean the world to them. They've concentrated so much on the circuit and the racing here, and I think they're in a good position to do that. The BMWs so far in the session appear to have fairly decent pace from what we can see, and you look at the times at the Hatzenbach, for example. Kevin Estra very close to the times through that section that were set in the qualifying race, which was full dry. So there are parts of the circuit that have got good pace, but problem for the Conrad Lamborghini, which is was going slowly with some damage on it, Joe.
I didn't notice that.
That was coming off the Grand Prix circuit onto.
So was he already onto the?
Well, that's the question. And check him out on that. Hello to Harry Chandler, who's getting ready for his grand départ for the Tour de Mont at Tour_du_MANS, raising some awareness and some much needed funds for CRY, which is a charity that screens young people to see if they've got any unknown heart defects that could potentially cause them problems. We've been supporting that pretty heavily, and the fundraising continues there. H, hope you're well. Just fitting some new Michelin rubber to his bike rims there. Also hello to Paul Ayling in Suffolk for half term with his son Evan, watching qualifying from Grandma's summer house hang on a minute, that's a little Aladdin's cave you've got there, Paul. Hashtag RSL_N24. There's a World War II era Jeep there. There's a really nice scooter, which, now let's see, is that a Vespa or a Lambretta? Not entirely certain about that. But the little white, and watch that at the back, that's an MG. He's got an MG in there as well. I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing there. That's doing it properly. No doubt about that. That is doing it properly. Hello to you two, watching and listening. We're unblocked all the way through to race day morning. There are some, I think there's only a couple of geo blocks around the world, but for the moment we're all together in sound and vision. RS1, if you're travelling around or if you're bandwidth challenged, you'll always be able to get, wherever you are in the world, you'll always be able to get the audio. And despite the fact we're doing the World Feed TV, we'll make sure that the audio makes sense for you, as we always do on Radio Show Limited broadcasts. So anybody who says, look at that, or, ooh, I've never seen anything like that before, we do have a large telephone directory in the booth, which we'll be slapping people across the back of the head with. I will be writing out the list of things that will not be said. As we can see, we're on board with. No, we're not. We're sitting in the booth. All of these things will be outlawed this weekend. There are financial fines and worse. Forfeits.
Food fines.
Food fines, yeah.
No more schnitzel.
No more biscuits.
Schnitzel ban.
Schnitzel no more.
Yeah.
Not in the Proclaimers song, that.
No.
Which
Lynn well, we are going to make a Proclaimers reference in the Youngtimers race. First ever time, I believe, covering the Youngtimers race in English language. We kicked off on the World Feed in the morning, on Saturday morning. Let's see what the time was, I can't remember. Around 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
3 hours of race here, thank you. Where we've got a Hillman Imp, the Scottish Porsche 911, taking part in the
911.
Lynn would know more.
And
That is actually offensive.
Is it?
I think it is. True. Having worked on Hillman Imps, all those
Where's the engine?
horrible things. Well, that's the only similarity. And the fact it's got four wheels to steer with.
Dead easy to work on a Hillman Imp because it was about 4 bolts to drop the engine
Yes,
out.
but that's the thing, John. You were constantly working on them.
Joe, that was 1960s cars all over.
They kept blowing the head gaskets because they're all aluminium engine, and when you you couldn't just put a head gasket in. You had to skim the block and skim the head. You're eventually running around with about 50 cc's.
975s originally.
The Conrad Lamborghini has made its way back, and in fact isn't even going to go straight. Actually, no, has to go all the way around the Grand Prix track and then back in. Of course, the cones are up.
Yes,
so
that's a good point, Peter. You can't access the pit lane directly off the end of the Nordschleife here, and the Hyundai
can in the race.
You can in the race, but not in these sessions.
No, I think it's a great idea, because then you can just do a quick loop of the Grand Prix track and then go for a flyer.
I've got a question. Remind me, during the race, can you come in the back door of the pits?
You can, but then that loses
you. Have a penalty, don't you?
No. It just loses you the time. So basically, you go across the line. Let's say you were on. Oh, and there's something else we need to talk about. Let's say that you were on lap 127, and you've come in down the Nürburgring. You've got 3 laps left of fuel. You go across the start line. You finish lap 127. You're going on to lap 128. As you're coming round, maybe through Michael Schumacher S, oh, hang on, I've got an oil pressure warning. I need to come back in the pits. I'm not going out on the Nordschleife. So you come through into the back way. As you come into the back way, it will drop back to 1
1:27.
1:27.
Right.
So you've restart that. So you've lost that time. But
That's fair. That's pretty fair. Absolutely.
Something that we noticed in the regs that was a change overnight, Peter, this is a bit of a hark back to the 1920s and the beginnings of endurance motor racing, both here on the Nordschleife and at Le Mans. You're not allowed to add any fuel in the first 5 laps of the race.
Correct. As you complete lap 5, you can come into the pits as you're about to complete lap 5. The reason for that is we might see teams changing tyres in those first 5 laps from, say, dry to wet or wet to dry. So that regulation has been, what I can see, has been brought in overnight to say that you've got to wait until the end of lap 5 to fill the car up. The Conrad Lamborghini has suspension damage. It's crabbing along the Grand Prix track at the moment. A very concerned-looking Franz Conrad in the pits, watching his car being brought back. Now the driver at the moment in that number 7 is Moritz Kratz. Thorsten Kratz, sorry, not Moritz Kratz. Thorsten Kratz.
Corner. So whether he's been off in contact, although there was a little fin there.
That's had contact.
Had some sort of contact.
Yeah, I think he's had contact with the arm core or the tyre wall somewhere. He's done really well to get that back. What you'd worry about there is pulling the drive shaft out, because you could quite easily do that when you've got suspension damage. If the wheel's moving around, you can quite easily pull the drive shaft out. Don't ask me how I know that.
As usual, in his denim jeans, Franz Conrad is in there. He's always gets his
changed.
He gets his sleeves rolled up. Of course, winner with his own team here in 1993 in a Porsche, won this race overall. So Conrad, a winning crew in the past.
Got some news for you from down in the pits, our hard-working team, from that incident we saw earlier on with the Glickenhaus. Their race engineer Dario Pergolini. It was indeed the water stream running across the track. He was driving directly behind another vehicle and lost control, hit grass, did not really crash, but as the grass was wet, he couldn't get out on his own. He didn't hit the barrier. He was pushed and able to get out again. They're checking the car over at the moment. Also a similar problem for the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup number 112. That is one of the... Is that one of the Kate Kramer cars? It was Jacob Riegel who hit a wet patch in the Foxhole exit on the first lap. He did hit the guardrail, but he brought the car back to the pits under its own power. Didn't need any recovery there. So it is still tricky out there with we're about halfway, no, we're exactly halfway through this 1 hour 45-minute session.
The grass is very unlikely to dry at any point during the weekend. The track may dry, but the grass won't. So if you go onto the grass, you are going to be a passenger. If it came out sunny for a day and a half maybe. Yeah. So if you go on the grass, unlike last year when we had dry weather all week, where we saw lots of drivers having to put 2 wheels up on the grass, or even choosing to put 2 wheels.
There was dust.
There was dust everywhere, and it was not fine, but a lot less perilous than if you did it in these conditions.
It was
actually muddy.
It was. And what was really nice is when the sun came, because of where we're situated in the Global Broadcast Centre, and because we've got glass everywhere. One of the very few booths that we use anywhere in the world that has Venetian blinds in it, and you do need that. Phil Anson had spotted that. Hello,
work.
Phil.
You need to have.
Oh yeah, and that work.
Actually work.
However, it got so hot in here last year and so sunny in here last year, we actually had a decent crop of tomatoes in the 5 days that we were here. It was outstanding. You could have ripened fruit in here. It was lovely. But you've brought the rain this year. It's #blame Bradley.
Yeah, it seems to be the theme. Yes, this year. Well, I'll accept responsibility. We talked about how people needed to get on with it in this session, because that 1 hour 45 minutes would disappear, and that 1 hour has gone. Just under 45 minutes to go now, and it's getting very busy out there. People beginning to trip over the slow traffic and the like. Certainly as they sort themselves out before they get onto the Nordschleife and onto... You know what? Mentally, this track, you have to attack every single part of this track. And it's kind of like the mentality of the Grand Prix part of the Grand Prix track of being the warm-up before the Nordschleife. Isn't that at all, is it? You've got to optimise every single braking area and every single turn in and
I always think it's interesting to see how many people make mistakes on the Grand Prix circuit.
If you're going to make a mistake, make it on the Grand Prix circuit.
Well, but you don't want to make a mistake. You're still going to have to get dragged out. That's the thing. You're less likely, I agree, you're less likely to hit anything. But you're still going to have to get dragged out. So at the moment, there are 3 choices to be made when you come to the end of the Grand Prix circuit and to the Vidal chicane. Here are your 3 choices. Option A, turn left and head onto the Nordschleife, down to Sabine Schmidt's curve and onto the Hatzenbach. Option B, make a, as our sat-nav would say, make a half right through the tyre wall chicanes, come back round onto the start-finish line and start the Grand Prix circuit again. Or, option C, make a full right into the pit lane and come back into the pit lane. Those are your 3 options at the moment.
As a driver, that's not going to be your decision. That's unless as a driver you've
I've got a puncture, I've come back to the pits.
Problem. That's going to be on the direction of your engineer and race director.
You've probably been told that before, so it'll be, you know, oh, hang on, got a problem for, what's that, an A92 BMW?
650 BMW M240i.
Oh, it's a 240, right.
Yeah, running on Goodyear tyres. It's Adrenaline Motorsport, Team Manhattan wheels. It's gone a bit wide at the hairpin, up onto the grass, manages to keep it going, keeps the boot in. Well done.
But you know what he's done there, down at the Goodyear curve, so that's twice we've mentioned his tyre manufacturer there.
Yeah, we have got them in.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Sven?
Alessio Piccarello. Sorry, John. Alessio Piccarello got onto the grass just in the Falcon 33 Porsche, and he was a passenger, one-way ticket to the barrier there. Just skiffed off the barrier, but Alessio Piccarello, it looked like he would be able to drive away from where he was. Didn't quite catch exactly where it was, but so it's tricky out there. And
or are people beginning to push a little bit?
Yeah, also.
Ex-Müller?
Yeah, he's got going. He's coming around Ex-Müller now. So that, yeah, it would have been Metzgesfeld where that same issue was for with that stream of water.
Across the track. We mentioned just how high the water table is at the moment. As we drove in this morning, roads were damp. There was still a bit of moisture in the air, but what we did notice was standing water and water running across some of the public roads.
It was Philip Stahlschmidt who will give that credit to getting that BMW, the number 650, out of the gravel, kept the wheels spinning, didn't he? Currently second in the BMW M240i class. That class designed
specifically for the Nürburgring races as a 235i, as it was. It was BMW's M race car entry, and they started off as 235i's. They went up to 240i's and got an extension on their homologation. I'm going to say 2 years ago. It might even be 3 years ago now. Not that the engine was changed, but it did get more power. In BMW M Speed, they optimised the power output electronically. So the chip did, basically, on that car. And there were some slight changes as well. There was an upgrade kit for the aero and I think the interior, the instrumentation as well. And it has been a great series. And I know that Bruce Jones and Johnny Palmer, when they're together, or Bruce and Snowy, when they're together talking about the NLS races, I think last season, towards the end of the season, post N24, I think every single BMW 240i class race went down to a last lap pass for one of the positions in the top 3. And normally that could be 7 or 8 minutes after the checkered flag for the leader, of course, but if they've been just in front of them.
That's it. Exactly what PMAC here was saying earlier on when we opened the show, that if you are out of qualifying, you might think 24-hour race to qualifying, what's that got to do with it? But that's how close things are.
Oh yeah, right at the end of it. That's at the end of the 4-hour races.
You know how I'm a massive advocate of endurance races being won on the pit wall. That's why the likes of Fricadelli have got a rear deck ready to deploy if in that moment of adversity they can speedily make that repair.
Okay, let's see what we can find out about that number 33 Falcon Tires car. Peter is convinced he's nailed his colours to the mast, and they are a lightish blue for Falcon. Impact for Picariello. The Metzgersfeld area, like many of his GT3 colleagues, due to the stream still flowing across the road. So we made a bit of a leap of faith there.
Whoever that is that's messaging in, he's picked a cracking spot to watch for.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Who was it again?
Double thumbs up from Klaus Abelin for the owner of the Fricadelli team, and he looks like a very happy man. No wonder, because his driver right now, Nico Veroni, said the best sector of anyone in Sector 1, and that car looks like it's an absolute rocket ship on the straight.
More news about that Glickenhaus issue. This from Lance David Arnold. So I've been in contact with Glickenhaus for a long time now. Paths have crossed again and again. We've decided to work together this year. I'm having a lot of fun, just something different. The spectators seem to celebrate the car, and the team spirit that Jim exudes is sensational. We can also sort things out here through what he says, in inverted commas, is informal channels. It's a completely different way of working. We used exude when talking about Jim the other day. He just absolutely radiates.
Isn't he something else that is the very spirit and essence of this race?
Axel Jana in the number 410 green Cayman GT4 Club Sport.
Cayman S.
Is it Cayman S? Right, okay.
GTS, excuse me.
I think he might have got a bit of... Did he get a bit of help in the speed? No, he was off on his own, just coming down through the end of the Vidal chicane, kept the power in.
3-time winner in class here at the N24. Oh, big lock-up on the front left as he came into that the Vidal chicane.
He's done well to get it out of there. Everybody running on slicks, by the way.
If he came off the brakes, he might have made the corner. But he's telling himself, I'm not going to make the corner.
He's got the carbon ceramics on that car, as evidenced by the yellow calipers. That is a very standard road car class that he's in.
Is it?
So
ABS?
Oh yes, yeah. ABS and carbon ceramics.
The ABS there, but well and truly.
Well, that might suggest that the ABS wasn't working correctly.
That's probably what's caught him out.
Yeah.
He's gone onto the pedal.
Thing is, Joe, when you're in an ABS,
just front left as well.
When you're in an ABS car, could have had a sensor failure. When you're in an ABS car, you're expecting the ABS. Well, and if you're not using the ABS right up to the apex and sometimes beyond it, then you're not getting the best out of the car.
What you mean by that is you pummel that pedal as hard as you can.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Your thighs. You need Chris Hoy's thighs. Chris Hoy when he was
Chris Hoy.
Chris Hoy's thighs when he was an Olympic cyclist. You really do. You can't push the pedal hard enough.
And normally you're left foot braking on those as well. A two-pedal car, so it's a big bang on the left foot. You haven't got any aero to speak about on those road-derived cars, so it's not as if you have to slightly feather off as the aero comes off, so you're hammering that all the way up to the apex. You're using that to help you rotate the car. Right, some more new quick times. That inexperienced rookie driver for Fricadelli's just put that car's fastest time in. Nico Varone, the Argentinian Italian, in the number 1 car, down to an 8:22.766. Top 5 now separated by just on 1 1/4 seconds. Top 3 by half a second. And the top 3 are the number 72 BMW Team RMG, the number 11 Schnitzelarm Racing AMG GT3. Schnitzelarm, by the way, all schnitzel all day restaurant group. How we've never been to one yet Peter ate his weight.
Serious failure.
Yeah. Peter ate enough schnitzel yesterday. He was hurt by the fact that we got our creds so early that the petrol station next to where we get the creds, who do a phenomenal breakfast schnitzel in a bun and a nice coffee, they didn't have them ready.
He was hurt.
He was hurt.
He was actually hurt.
Yeah,
Physically hurt.
He felt the need to make up yesterday and ate enough schnitzel to at lunchtime to feed the class.
I was totally let down as well because, of course, I wasn't here, so I didn't experience it. But you guys had played it up so much.
It was very good.
I didn't want to leave.
It was a great.
I was prepared to wait.
Yeah, there's a class of school children somewhere in the Eifel region yesterday who didn't get fed at lunchtime for what Peter ate, and he enjoyed it. It's very simple, just done in a lemon butter.
Clarified butter, lovely.
Lovely. So that's Schnitzel out in second place. Mantai and the Grello number 911 in third. So that's the top three separated by half a second. Then Nico Veron's time just in the 22.7. It's 21.6, by the way, at the top of the time. Charles Vert is back into the number 72 BMW. Fifth is the Red Bull Lamborghini. That's Kelvin van der Linde now in that car. So the brothers weren't out at the same time, I don't think. Number 27 Red Bull team at Lamborghini. He's a second and a half away on a 23.0. 23.8 is the best time for the number 98 Rover Racing. 34 Valkenhorst Aston Martin. Aston Martin switched to Valkenhorst switched to Aston Martin Vantages, if you didn't pick that up. And they have got the Evo car, Peter, haven't they?
Valkenhorst do, there are three of them. Big, and I mean, you think the investment of that to switch manufacturer, to have three chassis there with the new Evo kits on it, and the 34 car particularly, which is the Pro car. The other two are Pro Am entries. Christian Cronjes, Jakob Germisiak, David Pittard and Nicky Thiem. David Pittard and Thiem, of course, former winners of this race overall. So a huge move. I mean, Valkenhorst, their business is Henry Valkenhorst's business as a car dealership is hugely connected with the BMW brand before you even get into the racing.
Incident on track. It's the number 55 crossbow that I was just about to say. We've got a Daytona prototype in the field until the perspective came into view. But he's just had I was going to say a harmless spin. Not so harmless because the rear deck has contacted the barrier and gone askew, so that might have damaged the clip that fixes that rear deck on. But the number 55, I'm just finding out.
It's on the Grand Prix circuit and under the Falcon Tires Hyundai Bridge with 31 and a half minutes still to go. He's hit. He hit one of the BMW M240s there, pulled out across the track and left them nowhere to go. And there was a little clip which has done damage. No, excuse me, it was a Porsche. And it's done damage to the left front of that crossbow. Now, what I can't tell you is how much of that damage was done already, but there's lights hanging off that car now. It was heading up the hill to, I think it was the Schumacher S, actually, that happened. And now there's a light bar that's hanging out. Now, the original incident, coming out of the Goodyear hairpin and going up the hill, he loses it and spins round at the bottom of the hill. That's all fine. He hits the tyres gently. I don't think there's too much damage, but as he pulls out, clips the right rear of one of the Caymans going through and takes out a light bar. And there's absolutely nowhere to go for that Porsche. That is poor driving.
And that is a really experienced driver.
That's Lucas Stoltz.
No, Lucas Stoltz is in the Mercedes.
It's
Christian Gebhardt.
All right, well, he's very experienced as well.
Christian, many-time winner, four-time class winner here. His 18th start in this race. And he also does a lot of the sport auto test drives around the Nürburgring with road cars and some race cars too. The thing is, though, it's a central seating position in that KTM. The visibility can't be great. You would suspect in Christian's defence, but you would suspect him to be on the radio. But it's a busy track out there. But thankfully, that wasn't any worse. That could have been much worse.
That's yes, absolutely. Both cars have continued, but I think that Porsche's got right rear suspension damage. Let's take some more quotes from the pit lane. this again from Lance David Arnold. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't feeling really good. The grandstand already full for a Thursday. It's right there. So I haven't been out yet, but looking forward to the first lap. All the positive, crazy stuff, you get goosebumps no matter how many times you've done it before. We're not sure how the rain may play out because we haven't had many rainy laps with the car, but we're open to anything and highly motivated. In the SPX category, we're not running against too many of the peoples, mainly just ourselves. Obviously not fulfilling for any driver, so we want to get on the GT3's nerves as much as possible. Max Hesse, having set the fastest times a little bit earlier in the number 72 car, Charles Vert's now behind the wheel, said he, let me see, I've lost it there for a moment. He said, we can't complain at the moment. We've only just had the first qualifying. A lot happening. Track isn't completely dry. We're going to complete all of our compulsory laps first so that we have more leeway this evening. Smart. David Ackerman's Porsche down at the GC chicane went off. I think we mentioned about that. And this from Dylan Pereira, who's in the number 116 GT3 Cup car. Heck of a class. The GT3 Cup class. My first laps, Dylan said, were dry, which I didn't expect. A few places were damp, so you had to be a bit careful not to throw the car off the track. Got to get back into it a little bit here. Everything is brand new again. The car feels good. We're doing pretty well in time, even though we didn't push, so I'm happy. We'll keep working and hope that the weather holds. Just my second 24-hour race, he says, and so he is excited. Last year he said I came second in the class. We're trying to top that now. Driving a big team like Scherer makes it even more special. For me, this is my home track, and it's crazy to see what the fans are doing out in the forest. Standard.
I've got a bit of a comment from one of our Nürburgring 24 super fans. He's been here many times.
Oh, by the way, hello to Sarah Rigby as well, who is tuned in.
Hello, Sarah. Well, hello to Darren Wood, who's been listening in from the very start. He's usually here. He's not here this year. He's made an interesting point. An addition to this field would be a perfect addition. For Chevrolet to bring their Garage 56 entry from last year and have that car here, or better still, bring 3 or 4. Can you imagine that? Honestly, that would be phenomenal. I
caused a bit of a stir last year by saying, never mind GT3 at Le Mans for this year. Can we just have 16 of those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, frankly, there's no point in having GT3s at Le Mans if you can't have AMG and Audi, and they can't because there's not enough space for them. So let's do something completely different. Interesting that you mention Chevrolet, because Chevrolet and Ford drivers, there are some here who have been released from their factory contracts. I have seen people who normally would be wearing the bow tie on, not evening dress.
Not like Mike Hawthorne.
Yeah. I say hello. Yeah. The Chevrolet bow tie logo or the Ford Blue Oval, who are in not undercover but street clothes.
Oh, you mean like on a research mission?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There were some people here last year. There's people here now. It is a bit more difficult because there is an IMSA race on the streets of downtown Detroit, with qualifying tomorrow and the race on Saturday, just a 100-minute race. It's just the pro classes, so it's the prototypes and GTD. 21 cars on the streets. We'll have qualifying and the race for you over on RS2 and in sound and vision as well, of course. Qualifying is after we're finished tomorrow night. The race is during this race, which makes life interesting for me. However, we'll make that work. So my point being, obviously they're on the streets of Detroit this weekend, so there are there's quite a lot of stuff going on there between those two brands.
And this race weekend doesn't move. It's always situated around the Corpus Christi bank holiday here in Germany, isn't it?
One of the two main bank holidays. It has been known to move to the earlier bank holiday, but it's always on a holiday weekend here. Not everybody off in Germany. But a lot of people are off, and taking tomorrow off here, they call that
Recovery day?
The bridge. They call that the bridge. People are say, are you going back to work? No, I'm doing the bridge. So...
you know what? That's brilliant, isn't it? 4-day weekend.
I like 4-day weekends.
Yeah, I miss them.
Well, you're retired now. You don't get any days off at all, do you?
No days off, no bank holidays in my world, mate.
No. Just another day.
Yeah.
More improvements at the top of the times as Felipe Fernandez Laser in the number 1 Frickadelli car now jumps in. He's just done a 22.766.
That was Verone's lap.
That was Verone's lap, was it? Okay, so he's just got out. Oh, yeah, that was last time around. Just hearing, by the way, from Davey Uema, Sports Car 365, who we'll be hearing from during the race as the Dacia has pulled up on its way back into the pit lane, that... now, let me see. That is Colin Cesarani? I'm sorry, I don't... Cesarani. I don't recognise that name, but a late addition to the Conrad Lamborghini. So it's now a 4-driver crew.
Colin Carasani.
Yeah,
yeah, he drove last year in the in one of the Mercedes, in the Schnitzelhalm Mercedes. Very good driver, Dutch driver, who's come up through kind of small front-wheel drive cars in the Benelux region, like Fiestas and things like that. Really fast kid. Really fast kid. Yeah, look, great
so
to see him back
driver,
again.
Yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Anybody who can pedal a Fiesta's, all right by me. Raining at Metzgeveld and Verseifen, we're hearing.
So Joe's weather app strikes again.
Yeah.
You were right, that's what it predicted, wasn't it?
22 and 2:30.
Right on now.
Spot on.
Robin Frines talking to our pit reporters, saying that the number 99 BMW M4 GT3, he says, I've still got to get to know this car after 7 years with Audi. It's a bit different for me to drive. I'm a little bit off the pace of the guys who've been driving this car for a long time. Not much, but still got a bit to learn. Track has been dry so far with a few damp spots in the race. I think there'll be a constant change between wet and dry. I think he's right. The KTM Crossbow, it was Christian Gebhardt behind the wheel out of the Goodyear hairpin, and it was the 444, the Korn and Fassbender Porsche Cayman CM12, the Adrenaline Motorsport car, that was clipped on the right rear by that car. And by the way, thank you for that from Davey Uema, from that addition to the cog. We'll get a full list probably this evening of drivers.
Hope so, because I've got a lot of rewriting to do after my initial
you've
copy.
done it, Jeremy Shaw. You've got full colour keyed here.
Oh yeah. I've got orange for class winners, yellow for overall, and various other scribbles.
The always a good indicator of what's going on is what is happening to out in the forest, what is happening to the spectators. And when the wet weather gear starts to go on or the umbrellas start to go up, then you know it's getting damp, and that is very wet running up to
that's wet.
Schwedenkreuz at the moment.
That's heavy rain,
so wet.
So anybody out on slicks now will be tottering back. And the problem is, of course, if you slow down, you lose the heat from the tyres, and you don't get the advantage of the downforce of the GT3 car. It's a vicious circle.
It's a slippery slope.
Oh,
see
very
what you
good.
did there?
Yeah, at Arenberg.
The thing is, right, with 20 minutes on the clock,
park it.
Is it worth going out?
Park it. Yeah, the team manager's going box.
The only thing I might do is have people go around the Grand Prix circuit and scrub in some wets, if it's wet enough on the Grand Prix
Great
track.
idea.
Yeah,
this
very
is the
good.
first opportunity we've had for track action, remember?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't...
And scrub in some cut slicks too. Why not? There seems to be quite a lot of teams doing that, just going out onto the Grand Prix and coming back into the pits again.
Now, we don't usually scrub in slicks. However, when you are using it as an intermediate, you need to scrub that sheen off the tyre for it to bite immediately.
Yeah.
That's a good point, actually. I don't know what the regs are about getting slicks cut to intermediates, whether you have to have new tyres and then they give you them back, or whether you can give them a partially scrubbed slick. I presume it's new tyres only. New customers only.
A lot of when you look at when we were walking around the back of
to find out.
When we were walking around the back of the garages yesterday, the tyres are in big kind of tents, if you like, where the tyre warmers and ovens are, and a lot of them are already pre-cut and they look brand new. So I think your new slick goes to your chosen tyre manufacturer. They're cut as per the regulations by the manufacturer and then delivered back to the teams as and when they need them. And going around the paddock, you look at the little, every here we've got what are called confidential tyres.
Yes.
So you can have a front right that's specific to an Audi, or a rear left that's specific to a Porsche, and so on. And so you can have, this is what they used to have in the GTLM days, confidential tyres where you can develop it specifically for that car, so that you'll see their markings on the side.
So that's down to a relationship between the manufacturer or the team with the tyre company.
Correct, yes.
And that's perhaps why we've got so many tyre companies involved, because you want a bespoke tyre to suit your car and try to gain that advantage.
Yeah, and because if you're allowed to do it, then do it, of course. Although on the timesheets, in terms of the best completed lap, you've got the number 72 BMW RMG, fastest 8:21.4, the Schnitzelalm Mercedes Pro-Am car, number 11, 8:21.8, and then the Manthey car is by far the quickest in the session, 8:17.7.
The only car that's even partially equipped for this weather is the Subaru WRX from STI, Subaru Technic International, stalwarts of this race. It's the number 88 car. It's got a huge amount of class wins. Carlo Van Damme behind the wheel of that Scooby at the moment. We checked this. It is the only all-wheel drive car in the race now.
Running Falcon Tires, Japanese tyre brand, Japanese car, of course. Carlo Van Damme in the car right now. Six wins in class here. A real expert.
One thing to mention about Falcon, they throw a lot of resources, and they have a tyre testing centre here on Gottlieb Daimlerstrasse, which runs parallel to the road that runs parallel with the Dottinger Höhe. It's the next one back across where all of the technology centres are for the various companies. Hyundai have got one there now, as well as Aston Martin, Jaguar have had one in the past, and there's a number of others as well, tyre companies. Falcon do have a slight disadvantage from the other tyre manufacturers who compete here, in that they still manufacture their tyres in their home country of Japan. So the information gets fed back from any testing or the NLS races. That's instantaneous nowadays. It's not like you've got to send a letter or a pigeon. Right. So that's going back straight away. Oh, we tried these new compounds or constructions or whatever. But then they've got to be manufactured. Then they've got to get them here. And that is...
You can't send them over the internet.
No, you can't send the tyres over the internet. And they're not 3D printing them on Gottlieb. So there is a little bit of a lag in terms of them getting over to say, right, we've taken, right, Mr. Bradley, thank you very much indeed for your notes, for your tyre testing notes. We're going to make a new batch up and we want you to try them. Still waiting.
You're going to fly it. You are going to fly it. It's not going to be...
Can you imagine the cost of that? Yeah. The air freight back and forward from Japan. That's a big cost.
The other thing about...
However, they're very good at reacting. That means they have...
I would imagine so.
They have, down through the years, they have built up a fabulous way of working. And should say as well that although all of the cars will have Falcon over the front wheel arches, that's because they are an event sponsor.
It's not because they're running the tyres.
They're not necessarily running the tyres. 10 different tyre manufacturers.
The other thing about trying to gain that advantage, we're not necessarily talking about a lap time here. We're talking about a race time here. We're talking about stretching the stint.
Yeah.
And again, stretching the stint, we talk about fuel save at other tracks and the like. It's completely different here. So what we're going to see in a stint, well, how long's a stint?
7.
So you're not going to see a tyre stretching.
You won't double. The only time you might double stint or leave a tyre on is when you're outside the constraints of the timed pit stop, which is in the last 70 minutes of the race.
Yeah.
So you might do a stint and a half. So there's no point in. But what you want is consistency, Joe, through the stint, and consistency in a hugely different set of temperature ranges. Might as well get the boogie boards out at the minute, because the Hankook, another tyre company, Hankook Porsche, is that the 98 car?
It's a Porsche Cup car that's running in SPX, and you think, well, if it's a Porsche Cup car, why can't it run in Cup 2? Because in Cup 2 you have to run another brand of tyres, which is Michelin tyre. So the Hankook are here developing. They've got a huge number of motorsport programs coming up. So
Hankook have been supplying tyres to things like DTM, Formula E.
They've got WRC contract coming up very soon.
Endurance tyres used in the 24H.
I've raced on Hankooks. Yeah, they're very good.
Just a point on Falcon, if I might. In terms of that, talking about that development coming back and forward, whatever they've brought for the 2024 or the early part of the 2024 season in the dry on the Nürburgring has been absolutely fantastic. You've got 9 sectors around the circuit. 6 of them, the Falcon Porsches have been the quickest. So that tells you all you need to know about the dry pace. The wet is just a complete mystery. Nobody knows at this stage, and the driver of that Hankook Porsche at the moment is doing an amazing job.
Yeah, I was about to say,
there's a bow wave in front of that Hankook Porsche, and that's the top of the hill at Hamburg, isn't it? They're going to drop down into the Vauxhall any moment now. The hazard flashes are on, not because I think there's any issue, but just because they are driving so slowly.
Stephen Cho doing a great job keeping that car anywhere near the road. That's really tough.
We did see Conrad's getting some full slicks ready, so with 13 minutes
wet.
still to...
Put wets on.
Full
I hope
wets.
they're not going out and slicks.
full wets on that car with 13 minutes to go.
The other thing we might see with the very, very changeable and sporadic rain that we're going to have across the weekend is when we get heavy rain at one point of the track, completely dry at another part of the track, for a considerable part of the track, you have to put the tyre on that's going to suit the worst part of the track, because the jeopardy that's involved in that. I mean, all right, it's going to... And
you don't take chances
here. Changing. You can't. You can't.
You'll go to... I think we're going to see a lot of cut slicks used this weekend.
Yeah.
Now, and here's another question that I don't know the answer to, actually, because it's a grey area for tyres. So there's 116 tyre allocation.
Yeah.
That's slick tyres.
Yeah.
Rain tyres are
on top of that.
And are infinite, because obviously that's a safety thing. Where do inters fall then?
I think they're on top as well.
So they don't come out with slick allocation?
Even at 116, you're not really tyre limited. It's a fairly healthy allocation, I would say. Looking at as that rain came down quite suddenly, Felipe Fernandez-Lazar, in that defending champion Ferrari for Fricadelli, was on slicks. So he's had to limp that €1 million Ferrari home in the pouring rain on slicks.
It's his job.
I bet you he's being pushed back into the garage as we speak. I bet he's just going, there's the keys.
Just relax. Just take your time.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can do.
Or hero badges.
No. Felipe's very experienced.
The Glickenhaus going back out in this weather with a full set of wets on that car. Still coming back round, Sven Müller, Porsche Works driver in the number 33 Falcon Tires, Falcon Shod GT3R Porsche. This is the 33 and 44 are the two Falcon cars.
He's over at Adner first.
He's got a long way to go. He's got 3/4 of the Nordschleife still to go. But what I've noticed there in the wet, and this is the first time that we've had wet running, is that new tarmac is very, very shiny when it rains, and it's not dissipating the water. The water is sitting on the top of it, even though that's quite a hill heading up to Adenauer Forst there, but you can see the standing water on the top. And I'm just wondering as well, given that it was only laid last winter, and given that, all right, I'm not saying there's been no rain here, quite the reverse, but I'm just wondering how much of the oils are coming up from that as well, and that will be affecting the grip levels.
We are seeing drivers using the wet line, which is off the conventional racing line, and they put the car widths away from that at certain parts of the track.
And they're going...
The tarmac is more exposed there. It hasn't got a layer of rubber on it.
The other thing that they're doing that you know that it's bad is that they are driving so slowly that the preparation on the windscreen isn't dissipating the water, and they've got the wipers on, and the wiper is an absolute last resort in a racing car. Now, that looked like a Lamborghini blasting past.
Yeah, the apt car.
That was the apt car.
That will be on wets. And I wonder if Falcon here are testing what the drop-off is on the cut slick. The slick will almost be, don't even try it, but I wonder if Sven Muller, right now, coming through Versailles at the slowest point of the circuit, is on a cut slick, and they're trying to calculate what the sector-by-sector times are. That's... really,
he's just gone past the alternatively fueled Toyota Dirk Adolf behind the wheel of that Supra GR, and now dropping down towards the bridge. Adenar town just underneath will have their fun this weekend. Drove down there on Wednesday during the day. Isn't it Thursday?
No, they didn't have Adenar race day this year.
Did they not?
Because of roadworks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but so the thing is, this is maybe Falcon are thinking. Of course, they might have a lot of different tyres that they can throw at this, just to get an idea of where are they losing pace, where are they gaining pace on, but from wet to cut slick.
But he's heading now up to Bergwerk.
No, he's just cleared Bergwerk.
And through... let me finish the sentence, Joe.
Sorry.
He's heading up to and through Bergwerk, and...
You don't go up to Bergwerk, you go down to it.
Well, indeed. And now climbing the hill, much steeper than it appears when you watch television, up towards Mootkerf. And it's still raining, but you can tell by the way he's driving and the revs he's using and how he's moving the car around the track. The grip level has changed massively. He's got way more grip underneath him now, and that's not because the tyres have magically switched on in the last 2 kilometres. It is absolutely down to the changing conditions. If not metre by metre, certainly half kilometre at a time, whether it's under the trees, whether it's not under the trees, whether it's exposed to the wind, whether the rain's reached there or whether the rain's gone through.
They're like Disney clouds. They're like little black Disney clouds who were just downpouring on certain parts of the track and less so on other parts of the track. And that's what we saw there. Very
little black rain cloud.
Exactly.
Hovering over.
There's no sign of Winnie the Pooh out there.
There was a bear being dangled by a crane on our footage earlier on, which I've still digesting that one. It was a hammock.
Sleep well. Sleep well.
I see. Thank you. So interesting sort of. I mean, you think about it from 25 kilometres. That's up the longer end of a World Rally Championship stage, and they often talk about, have I got the right tyre for half the stage, and not, off for the Falcon Horse 34 on the Grand Prix circuit. It's in the barrier, back into the barrier. Maziak.
This is the black and gold Evo Aston Martin. Oops, the 8 Vantage.
It's currently running 9th, that car. Just put in its fastest lap as well before the rain came out. 8:24.9.
Now, as we mentioned, the extra driver Karazani added to the Conrad Huracan. Maxi Paul, who's in there, said it was difficult, typical Nürburgring weather, and he's not wrong there, is he? Rain here, not there, first time in such conditions for me. The qualifiers were completely dry. Now driving into a rain shower like this with slicks, it's not easy. There's nothing at stake right now, so the main thing is to keep the car intact, and really not easy in these conditions. It is a battle for survival out there at the moment, gents.
Hugely so. The incident for the Falcon Horse car was at the Valkenhorst car was at the Michael Schumacher S, and where the car just snapped back on Kubica Maziak.
He's out the car.
The number 24 Lion Speed Porsche had one coming around Schwedenkreuz, which is a seriously quick corner in the dry, and there's 2 pools of water running along there. And also got up onto the grass, managed to gather it up. So there's lots of drivers finding it very difficult out there. Wonder what tyres Kuba was on though.
Well, he's had a good look at the right rear of the car by climbing up onto the tyre stacks to see if there's any damage before he tries to pull it away. With only 5 minutes left in the session, I'm not sure I might bother with that. He's got the car fired up again. The positional lights are still on.
If you're in the pit garage, you can see those pictures that have been produced on the live stream. You're going to tell your driver just to relax.
Sit in the car.
Mate, just let's
stay dry.
We'll come to you.
Yeah.
Let's get it recovered. We'll bring you back, and then we don't want to damage the car any further, because he might have bent a toe link that will eventually snap. You know, you just don't know. You then full
drive shaft damage, gearbox.
Before you let it get back out.
Okay, that's a front-engined rear-drive car, but effectively that's got a transaxle on that car to balance the weight out.
And it's a car that's very new to them.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That is a very, very good point. So down inside the last last 4 minutes, excuse me, we have a code 60 at the foxhole. So there's been an incident there as well. That yellow flag has just been... There's still people going out. Give them their due. Trying to spot some of these cars that we're seeing for the first time. Rover Racing you can't miss, and even accelerating off the pit lane speed limit, a little wiggle from the 99 car. The 98 car is in 7th position at the moment, the 99 in 10th, and have we got the brothers out? Oh no, I was just about to say, the 2 Vantors out at the same time, but the Manthey car's in the pit lane.
The fact that we, at 20 minutes, when the rain came, we said, would you go back out? That's why we're commentators, because everybody, it seems, is having a look at this.
This is probably more representative of what we're going to see in the race.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a fair point. Yeah, absolutely a fair point. Well, thanks for being with us, and thanks for keeping us going at RSL_studio. Hashtag is RSL_N24. And thank you to everybody who has been watching and listening. Daz says, so it's confirmed no Manta. And he's not got a happy smiling face with that one. Volker Strycek, who is the Manta man, who normally comes with some of his children, actually. The Manta has not returned. He is in a Cupra, isn't he?
Volker Strycek, yes.
Yeah, which mirrors... The race car mirrors the colour scheme of one of the Cupra intervention vehicles, which is... in no way confusing, to be honest. So we'll keep an eye out open for him and point that out. But yeah, no Manta. There was a fire in the workshop, I believe, as Dries Vanthoor is now getting up to speed in the Rover Racing number 99 BMW. Dries will be loving this. This will be drifting. I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever.
I'm guessing Dries Vanthoor is on full wets, and the thing is oversteering all over the place. I mean, the standing water is making it really tricky.
I think he's inducing some of that as well, though.
I think he's just having a carry on.
Oh, yes.
That sounds like Dries.
All right. Are you going out onto the Nordschleife?
No, thank you.
No, he is.
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not. No, he's not.
Straight back into the pit lane. Aston Martin with Kubica Maziak with under-tray damage at the back. The diffuser has broken a couple of strakes off on the right rear. There's a wee bit of bodywork damage as well, but all 4 wheels are pointing vaguely in the right direction. You're his team manager, Bradley. Are you happy with him driving that back?
I actually am. I thought he was out on the Nordschleife. He wasn't.
No, he's only going to go on race track. Yeah.
Is he on wets there? Looks like it.
Yeah, it looked like wets.
It looks like there's a bit of spray coming up, so...
Well, you can see you can see how slippery it is there.
On wet.
Touch the throttle on wet. You know, it's just so wet that your wet tyre is aquaplaning.
And this is where you spare a thought obviously for the drivers and the teams, but for race control as well. They've got to be watching every metre of the circuit and trying to assess it all and check that it's still safe to go out there.
We've also had an incident for the Indy Donchy, Vincent Kolb.
Yeah, that was the one from Schwedenkreuz.
managed to not have an impact with that.
He did very well.
Yeah. Slid over the curb and into the meadow towards Arenberg, the grassed area. That is one of the bigger grassed areas, in fairness. He did a very good job there. Down to the last few seconds. Checkered flag will be being ready. We'll stay with this, of course, because there's cars still out on the Nordschleife. Joe will tell us how many more cars there are to come round. Checkered flag is out in front of us, and yellow flag's out at Klostertal, although the track is now showing clear on the Grand Prix circuit. Let's see anybody who has...
Still a lot of cars out in the Nordschleife,
right.
John.
Thank you. I'll do a quick rundown of the teams who, at the moment, are... Oh, where's that going? Oh, there we are. The teams who, at the moment... Oh, I see what I did there. Are leading their classes whilst we wait for cars to come back in. There we are. So, if I read out some numbers and teams, Peter, if you want to...
Okay.
So SP9, we know, was led by the team at the top of the timing charts, the number 72 BMW team RMG. In Cup 2, 19th position, the 148 Black Falcon team, leading in Cup 2. SPX is Glickenhaus, 706 in 29th. Dürr Motorsports, number 55, is it SP11? So
that's the GT2 KTM.
Of course it is. In 41st position, the Subaru STI WRX, the SP4T leader. That's the number 88. We'll call that number a lot, actually. TCR, Hyundai, N Motorsport, the number 830. That's the Manuel Lauk car, isn't it? The TCR. Dürr Motorsport in SP10. That's the... Now, SP10 is sort of
GT4.
GT4 non-turbocharged, isn't it?
No, GT4, it's SP10. SP10, you can have a turbocharged car, yes. For example, Schnitzler Racing have a turbocharged Mercedes.
So that's the 169 car leading that track, that class. Oliver Sandberg was last
that's
out.
An Aston Martin.
Right, okay.
With a turbo engine in it.
Yeah. Hoffer by Bonk in the 888 lead 83. That's the Kroll family outing, isn't it? In that car. 4 Motors, GmbH for the 82 in 47th. That's number 320. That's BMW then, isn't it? Number 320.
You would suspect so, and that's in the alternatively fueled class. No, it's not actually. It's the 4 Motors GmbH car, 911 GT3 Cup of 992 generation, but alternatively fueled. A Nürburgring legend, none other than 4-time winner Smudo is in that car. Smudo, the German rapper.
Behind, or next up in the classes, SRS Team Zorgren Sport number 959, an all-wheel drive Porsche with shades of blue livery. No, not at all, but it should be with 959 on it, shouldn't it? in the Cup 3, they're in a very creditable 48th position overall. I'm very impressed by that. In SP6, it's Hoffer again. That's the Prince family outing in the 207 car.
Yes, M3 E46 GTR.
Right.
Yeah.
SP3T next, the number 311, the MSC Zenzig EV im ADAC.
Audi TT. Which may have Quattro. It's an Audi TTS.
Oh, now.
So it may have Quattro.
Now, that's a very good call, Peter. Very good call. Up to race, the 680 leads the 240i class. The 460 is next, the V6 leader. And that's about all we've got time for today.